Welcome to the Your Living Proof podcast. If you love someone struggling with addiction and are searching for answers, we're so glad you found us. Families are the cornerstone of long-term recovery, yet they often go unsupported. Our mission is to strengthen and support this vital but often overlooked part of the addiction recovery process. We're here to help families understand what their role is and isn't in this journey. Addiction deceives and takes everything you're willing to give. But if you know better, you can do better. And we're here to help you do just that. If you're asking, how can I help my addicted loved one? This is your community.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Your Living Proof podcast. If you're watching this episode, you can see things have changed.
Yes, for the better, and it's so awesome. We're so happy.
Yeah, we
loved our old studio, but it didn't allow us to express ourselves the way we wanted to visually.
Yeah, so
That's what Danny kept saying.
Yeah, and if you're not watching, you can go see the upgrade. I know most people listen into on just different platforms, the audio version. But we have a guest here today, Pamela. Can you say hi?
Hi.
I'm lucky man sitting in between two beautiful women today.
You are.
At least.
But you should also be a little bit nervous.
Oh, I am. We know each other and it is scary. I'm kept in check by both. So to have both here today is putting me on the hot seat a little bit.
Yep.
But no, this year, you guys, we mentioned in our last episode, I hope you listened in and tuned in. Stephanie shared the story about her family, her son. But the beauty of not just what happened with her son, but what happened with her and their whole family in the process of recovery together. So if you missed that episode, I really challenge you to go back and listen. But as we mentioned there, we have real high hopes with the podcast. We're already aware, thanks to many of you who've reached out, that the podcast has reached a lot of people in a lot of places, giving them tools and necessary things to start navigating this situation differently. If you're new or newer, our podcast and our program is focused on those families who have loved ones struggling in their addiction. And a family that's wondering, at least on the sidelines, like, what in the world can we do? Like, how can we help? Most of the families have tried relentlessly and become exhausted trying to help a loved one in this situation, but they just didn't know better. And that's our hope. Is our mission is to empower the greatest threat in the world to addiction, which is a family that effectively learns how to intervene, number one. And number two is how to support long-term recovery, because the benefit that most people can't see is the third step beyond that, which is what allows healing for everybody.
Yes.
So for those of you that are out there, you're probably already familiar with our podcast, but if you're newer, at least that's the goal here.
Yep.
The truth is, for the people in their addictions, because there are millions of those struggling in their addiction, there's resources available like crazy.
Yep. In
the forms of podcasts, in the forms of treatment centers, in the forms of ongoing resources for recovery. But for the family, people sitting on the sideline wanting to help, there's very limited resources. So we're here to change that. Our hope is this year in telling some of the stories.
Yep.
We've had the most humbling and beautiful opportunity to work with families in these difficult situations, and then to visibly be part of that transformation and to watch what unfolds. It's the most rewarding thing.
It is. And because of it, we now are associated with, in my opinion, some of the best people on earth.
Yeah. And we want to tell those stories.
Absolutely. So today you're going to hear the story of somebody that I personally love, that I admire and often lean on. And I am so excited for you to maybe meet her again, because she's been on once before on episode 80. Pamela came and shared a little bit of her story, and it's been a while, and we're having her back on to share a little bit more because a lot has happened. But also at the end, we have a very special announcement to make as well. So Pamela,
Hi.
welcome back.
Oh my gosh, that was a great introduction. Oh my gosh, I love you, both of you. Thank you so much.
Yeah. we're hoping that Pamela's willing to share her story, which she is, and that's why she's here, which is awesome. But it's to help you guys listening, like understand a little bit of where it was and then what changed.
Yeah.
Because I think the part that we're missing, right? And this is where I hope Pamela's story about her and her involvement, because to connect the dots, this was the journey that she had along with someone she loved very dearly, her husband, in his addiction. And it's also where she got lost in the process with him. But what changed and allowed not only him to get help, but her to heal with him. We often don't connect the dots in the world that we live in. Sometimes even from families that are good, faithful families, educated families, the important role that the family plays. It will continue to be a struggle, I think, for a lot of people, is that acceptance that they're part of this, and then the willingness to do it. But as she shares, I hope you kind of see the application of what it was like for her to recognize her part in this, and then the impact that her change had in his recovery. So thank you for sharing.
Yeah, I'm really excited. So just to give you an update and a little bit of a backstory. So the last time I was here, my husband was approaching almost a year of sobriety. I think it was around 8 months, if I remember right. And so what had happened was right till about the mark of 1 year, he was teetering right on that edge. And I could see changes in his behavior. They were going back to the way that they kind of used to be. And so for me, what I realized is that, wait a minute, something's off. And what I found out is shortly around that 1 year mark, he actually was headed towards relapse. And for what had happened was I knew that it was coming because I had been showing up to classes. I'd been showing up to group. I had been listening to what long-term successful recovery looked like. And I could see that it wasn't falling into place. And so I prepared myself. And in that example, I remember reaching out to you, Danny, and said, I know he's going to relapse. I can see it. It's coming. There's old habits that are creeping back in. And you had recommended that I give him the gift again. And that meant either he go back into treatment or he doubled down on his recovery. And so when I gave him that gift, this time I put it in a little bit more of a materialistic manner. I wrote it down, put it inside of a gift so that I could really speak loudly to the disease through actions, not words, because my words really started to mean nothing.
Yeah, you tried. You'd used words for a long time, like everyone.
Right. And so I wrote it down, made it very simple, put it on a piece of paper, wrapped it up in a gift, and left it there for him. And I left for the weekend. And I thought, okay, maybe I'll be gone for 3 or 4 days, and he'll come back. He'll come back around. He'll understand. Well, it didn't take 3 or 4 days. He, in fact, did tell me that he didn't think he needed it, either one of those options. And I thought, oh my gosh, the fact that he just said that tells me exactly where we're headed.
Now, when you say real quick, you saw signs, I think because a lot of people out there wonder. For what it's worth, Pamela played the role of lead detective very well. Like, I knew that time, and most of you out there have as well. So it's kind of, I just didn't know if you could elaborate on that, like where we saw signs, because most often the signs we see at first are like the behaviors, maybe like they withdraw a little bit, they isolate a little bit more, they're more emotionally detached, or maybe the signs that we see are they're lying, they're not coming home when they said they're supposed to. So like, what were those signs that you saw that were concerning? Because was he back drinking at this point?
No, not yet. Not yet. So what happened was we started to fight. And that was like the first indicator, because we don't usually fight that often, really at all. And then some of those old behaviors of denial, defensiveness. Anytime I would say anything, he was not open. And from what I've learned, when a loved one enters recovery, they're a lot more responsive, not defensive.
Yep.
like they take accountability for their actions, and those are some of the signals of what recovery looks like. But for him, he was reverting back into those kinds of habits where it was more on an emotional level. And then I would, try to open up to him, and he would just shut me down. And so that became an alarm to me, to be like, wait a minute, something's transposing here, that is old behaviors coming back. And you had said something to me that was very profound, and that was the fact that what we were doing was not sustainable. Because the change that we were making has to continue forward. Now, I'm not talking about like he had one slip up or something like that. It was a continual emotional relapse, mental relapse. And so that's where I was like, oh, the physical relapse is only a few steps behind. So I thought, okay, I'm going to go ahead and intervene again before it gets too bad. Well, so to follow back up with, I left for the 3 or 4 days, so I thought. And when he told me he didn't think he, needed either one of those, I knew I was in it for the long haul. I actually went and stayed with a friend, because we're empty nesters, and so we're in a little bit of a different circumstance. And I knew that my leverage, my ability to be able to motivate him properly was with my presence, or my lack of presence.
Yeah.
And so I stayed with that friend until he decided to get himself the help that he needed, which took 7 long weeks.
Wow.
And then he severely relapsed. He had started to drink again. And I would go back home occasionally during the day when he wasn't there to check on things at home to make sure that they were okay. And that's when I went back into detective mode.
Everybody goes back into it. Yep.
Yeah. And I found boxes of alcohol hidden behind the couch and all sorts of things. And when I found them, and we would write letters, because I told him, I said, I want to be with you in the healthiest version of you. But if you choose not to, that's your choice. Just like I choose not to be a part of that relationship.
If you're hearing Pamela's story right now, first, I do find one of my skills is like applying what was being shared to so many people out there listening, because I work with so many people. If you missed her other episode, like her ability to do this, right? To learn how to effectively intervene, to strategically approach this, to put boundaries in place instead of threats and requests. This was learned long ago, right? Like this was learned to ever get him started into treatment beforehand. So I think even when you're approaching this, when you can see him start to revert and slip back, there's a lot of people there that have been in that space, and it's kind of scary. There's a lot of unknowns of what to do. And so your approach obviously came from a place of knowledge, of understanding, of support and change in you to be able to do that, first of all. Because otherwise, what does everyone else do?
Go ahead.
No, go.
Well, I was just going to say, I wish you would share just a little bit about where you were at, this like emotionally, your mindset and everything when you first entered our program.
Oh.
and just kind of like, just briefly, like what was going on in your life? Because what I'm hearing you say right now is like, even just like the noticing of behaviors triggered you, because you're like, I am not going back to that place. Mm-hmm. I have grown.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like let's look at the difference of where it was to like that place of growth. Because the truth is where we're going to bring this all back full circle is the ability to step in and save someone's life the way that you have recently came through hardship from before.
Yeah.
So what it looked like in the beginning before I joined the program was I actually was a mess. I was the lead detective that the FBI could call me and be like, hey, we have a job for you.
That's when you guys are putting trackers
She's
on
Connie
their,
Chung.
yeah, you're putting trackers on their devices in their car, and we're driving by places to see where they're at. All of you are guilty of it.
Yes, I was absolutely guilty. I actually used to go on bottle hunts throughout my house.
Nice.
Multiple times a day, even though my husband had not been home. And I had already
But you were sure you
I had
were gonna
already checked
find-
those spots.
Yeah.
And I was like, wait, I just need to go again. And that's where I actually first had the indication to go, wait a minute. What am I doing?
Yeah.
I've already checked these spots like 3 times. What is my brain doing? I was actually getting sick.
Yeah.
I did not realize until after going through the program and speaking with Danny that I had that this disease was the only one on the planet that had the ability to make me sick. Not only that, but I had situational depression.
And it didn't happen overnight.
No.
This was like little by little. It took you at a strong place and slowly whittled you down to do those types of behaviors.
And would you, that was like what, 3 years ago?
That was so my husband and we just celebrated 7 years of marriage over the weekend.
Awesome.
And so we struggled with this since our honeymoon. And so for the last 5 years.
Do you know with married couples,
Wow.
that's actually not always, but the majority of the time when they can trace back to signs, things that happened, behaviors, something they witnessed where they're like, and it almost comes all the way back to that point, by the way.
Yeah, I had no idea that there was an issue. He kept it hidden and until our honeymoon. And so then as it progressed over those 5 years, like I tried everything. I went to therapy. I got him to go to therapy. I was going to addiction recovery support groups, which were great, but nothing taught me the strategy of how to improve or at least give my loved one the chance at what recovery would look like. I thought a therapist would do it. No, not at all. And so that's when I prayed. I prayed for more guidance. And lo and behold, I was led to this program. And honestly, I was really upset with you.
That's a theme,
That's a common
babe.
thread,
No,
isn't it?
I've just
Yeah.
accepted that's
Yeah,
part of my
I-
mission in life.
I was really upset. I was like, wait a minute, don't give me your one pill fixes all. What do you know? But the reality of it is I didn't know.
Yeah.
I had tried everything and I was so beat down that I couldn't do it anymore. I knew that either 1, my husband was going to die, or 2, I was going to divorce him. And I didn't want either one of those, but I knew that it was going to come at the cost of myself. And so I literally had to put the oxygen mask on myself in order to save him, in order to save our family. But I didn't know how.
Can I share something?
Yeah.
I met Pamela, and it doesn't always work out this way, but coincidentally, we were in the same geographical area without even really knowing it. And so to connect these dots, this is when the process began. Like when she finally, as she had been praying for additional help, had surrendered and came to meet with me, accepted the program, accepted tools. We met at a park, and it was very easy to tell quickly that this was a woman that was sharp. She had had success. She had been doing a lot of things independently, but was so tired. And I still remember we met at a park. There were lots of different reasons. This isn't normal protocol, but we met at a park. It was a safe place to meet up. It was a beautiful day. And as she's sharing about the situation, trying to make sense of it, and granted, I've witnessed hundreds of these, it was like I just sat back and I was like, this amazing woman is just tired. And there was even a moment where it was like you questioned literally, like, I don't even know if I want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
And that's just where I watch this progress. It always progresses with the person in their addiction. We know that. If you're listening in, you've probably witnessed that, but just so you know, all addictions are progressive. Takes a person from where they are, and eventually it leads them to a place that's unimaginable. but it also does that with the person closest to them. So I'm glad we connected these dots because, you know, if you didn't hear Pamela's previous episode, what you didn't hear is this was a very thriving, successful woman who had her own business, doing all the things, had experienced a lot of things in life, who was trying to make sense of something that just didn't play by the rules, didn't make sense, was very personal. And the beginning, this was back before he even got started, let alone where she's starting the story off, which is recognizing signs of him reverting,
Of relapse, yeah.
of just the power in her surrender. And I witness, and it's really hard for families to accept this at the beginning, but there are so many parallels. His journey began the moment he surrendered and accepted help. But often before a person sick in their addiction is ever capable of doing that, it requires the person closest to them experiencing their own surrender and gaining their own help. And just, I didn't want to cut in, but who Pamela is today, and you'll hear more about this in a minute, is there's several of you listening out there who've already experienced how amazing she is. And the skill set that she has to bless many of you that are listening in now. But it's also remembering where this started and how broken it had made her feel, how hopeless, not to mention what a lot of you have probably experienced, is just being angry and maybe showing up as like the worst version of yourself so often, right? So I just wanted everyone to hear.
And I just want to say rightfully so.
Yeah,
you married this
so.
man, and on your honeymoon, you found out he's an alcoholic?
Yeah.
Yep.
Rightfully so.
Yeah, I was really upset for a very long time.
Yep.
And no one would blame you for that.
So those dots are important. So what she actually learned, so then we can kind of jump back into where we were. But what she learned, I'll just brag for her. This wasn't just, let me just read something over the weekend.
Yeah.
This was,
I want
what? She's all, I have to what? She had to invest financially. She had to accept and be willing to sacrifice time. Like she said, hearing from people, feedback on her. What?
Yep.
About what you're doing and why you're failing and why you're not being effective and how this has changed you. What? I mean, and then with all of that said, I watched her for the better part of a year show up, consuming all the material, doing all the work on herself, separating the person she loved from the disease that was trying to kill him and her, taking accountability, accepting challenges, being willing to change, and continually showing up. All of that produced the most actually just restored her back to the amazing version she was, and actually refined it, to be honest, giving her even an increased level of skill. But that's what brought her back to a place where she was effective getting her husband into treatment. And she referred to it as like the sloth mentality, which is honestly the case. I was guilty.
We'll talk about that.
Yeah,
a lot
I'm like,
more.
I want to hear.
But then when he's in recovery and she can start to see signs, if you're listening, there's a key point. She was only able to do that, not from a reactionary place of fear, doubt, blame, confusion, taking it personal, but she had done enough work to understand unbiased what recovery looks like, what it's going to take to continue. She could say, I have showed up. She hadn't failed to stop her own recovery. She hadn't failed to show up for her own groups and healing herself. So when it got to this place where she started this episode, which is, hey, this isn't working and I know where this is heading, was based upon not only an insight, but so much knowledge, so much work, so much sacrifice to be able to get there. That's a key factor.
Yeah, amen. And I want to hear about that. Like I'd love to hear.
Oh yeah.
So you intervened basically.
So I was at a different level of angry this time.
Yeah, for sure.
Like the first time I didn't know what I didn't know. And now I knew a little more. And so I was like almost in denial myself. Wait a minute, I have to do this again? Oh my gosh. You're kidding me.
Yeah.
I was telling my husband, like the first time he went into rehab, I was like, hey babe, one and done. We got this. Oh, what an idiot I was, like, for setting myself up for that kind of expectation. Oh, I should have known better. But the reality of it is when I got to that point where I was I was like, oh my gosh, my marriage may not last. This may not work out the way that I'm hoping it was, and the fact that I had to do all that work was really upsetting because it wasn't even my dang problem. Mm-hmm. It's not my issue. Why do I have to be the one to lead? But the reality of it is, what I have learned, Danny, by going through your program, is that addiction is a family disease. And it literally is two sides of the same coin.
As unfair as that is. It's
right.
True.
And you cannot spend a dime without both sides. And so what comes first, the chicken or the egg? It doesn't matter. That's where I had to come to a point of surrender to just do whatever I needed to do, regardless of whether or not I stayed with this man. I was sick, but just in a different way.
And I have to cut in because that is what allowed her to put in place these boundaries. Because if you're listening in, let's say your spouse has been sober for a few months, claims to still be sober, right? Most people in your situation may have felt or questioned, am I overreacting?
Yeah, am I being crazy? Am I trying to be controlling?
She's watching these behaviors and she's seeing it because she's seeing it clearly, right? And now what she's done is she's taken emotion out and replaced it with conviction. Where things felt really personal and emotional. She's like, nope, this is practical and this is what it takes. And this is what I want. And you know what? I've done enough work that this is what I deserve. That's where she could insert herself where I think a lot of people can't, especially women. If your husband's like, you know what? No, I'm good. I'm clean. I'm not even drinking. Why would you say that? People don't understand relapse. Relapse happens far before a person puts the bottle or drugs or starts watching porn again, right? It happens in the lack of their continued work. It happens in the lack of their dailies, the lack of showing up, the lack of being accountable.
Well, and the behaviors, just like you said, the behaviors.
But that was because this is part of the story that's the most critical, that's hard for people to maybe understand. And it's why I'm spotlighting it. Because I actually saw him the other day and like the light that's on and the growth that's happening. I know how much hard work he's done. I know the commitment and surrender he's experienced, but I also know that never came on his own accord. Like it never started. Like it's because someone that he cared deeply about got to a place where they could honestly say, this is what I need. And that's really hard because I will say, once you start catching signs, behaviors where like almost often like a relapse has already happened, right? If whether they're physically relapsing or just emotionally and mentally relapsing, but usually they've relapsed and they're hiding it. Just for some of you listening, wondering, like if it doesn't seem right, it's usually not right.
Right.
But I want to jump back in there. So you learned that because of what you've done in your own recovery and all your healing, these were needs that you had. This is what important. You felt a threat to your safety. So you implemented boundaries, which required him to do something. He didn't like it. And as you said, he started drinking again. And then things
unraveled quickly.
And so we had to jump in and do the 2.0.
Yeah. So what's interesting about what I figured or what I found out is that the second time, once he's had some sort of amount of long-term recovery, right? Almost that year, it seems like to me, and Danny, of course, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like when they relapse, because we know that relapse is part of recovery, right? So if 85% of people relapse within the first year, the odds are pretty good that they're going to relapse. So when they do that, what is the reality of like them actually digging in deeper? Like they almost, they relapse.
Double down.
Yeah. They relapse harder.
Well, because they just failed themselves.
Well, and
they just disappointed themselves and everyone.
Well, and what about the fact that, okay, maybe let's use drinking as an example. If you used to, let's just say you used to drink a 6-pack every night, you have now built up a tolerance. But once you've been sober or in recovery for an amount of time, you forget that you can't drink that 6-pack anymore.
Which is why most people that overdose and die from drugs, it's when they relapse, because their body's tolerance is dropped back down to normal level and they're using what they were before they start. Yeah.
So it's a lot more intense, and you've got more on the line. That's your life.
But relapse is part of recovery. It is inevitably, and I hate it. But it doesn't have to be, or at least it can be part of recovery and benefit if and only the people in your life are empowered to know what to do in that case.
Yes. So the difference was for me knowing that now at that moment when I was giving him the gift again, that I didn't have to worry about the unknown because I had a plan. Because of what you taught me, I knew what long-term successful recovery looked like. And I had a conviction around it. And so I didn't have to throw the baby out with the bathwater and just figure like, well, there it goes. Gosh dang, I tried. No. I had a plan. I knew that this was a possibility coming up. And so I already knew what had to happen.
Lucky him.
And I love that because
Lucky
I'm like,
him.
when you say that, like what I'm visualizing is like a staircase.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe he had taken, he was 4 or 5 steps up the staircase. And the relapse doesn't have to mean like he tumbled all the way down to the bottom.
Right.
It's essentially he stepped off. And then because of you and what you required and what you understood, he could step back on that same stair.
Yeah.
After he
absolutely
committed, right? It didn't have to be like a just complete ground zero. We're starting from scratch because you had a completely different skill set this time.
Absolutely. It was a lot different. So can I share with you the empowering moment?
Yeah, please.
Yeah.
That I had with, so once, during that 7-week period of time before he checked himself into detox, we would communicate back and forth a little bit through like text, or not really text messages, but through, there was a piece of paper and notepad on our counter. And he would say things like, we're stronger together than we are apart. And all I would reply was, then get the help that you need. Then go to treatment. Or when I would find his box of alcohol, I would put on there a Post-it note that said, I sure hope that you'll get the help that you need. Or I'd put a Post-it note on the calendar that would say, there's a better way out of this. Just these little subtle, like bits of information and hope, somewhat hope, but not of a shameful matter. So,
but it was like a hope with a boundary, which is like,
a boundary,
I hope you get the help you need because you can see I'm not here. It's like
right, and the very last part I remember, like, and I kind of had fun with it in a way because I was no longer taking it personal. Right. And there was one time that he had sent me a text message and all I replied to him was, is it Amy Winehouse's They Tried to Get Me to Go to Rehab, that song?
Yeah. Yes.
Oh my gosh. It was so awesome.
I bet he loved that.
Oh, he hated me so bad. He hated it so bad. But what was awesome was at the point of where he actually was ready to admit himself into detox because he knew that it had gone too far. And so when he finally did that, after he was in detox for about 5 days, the director called me and said, hey, we'd like to share with you your husband's treatment plan that we suggest for him moving forward. And I said, okay, great. And what they said to me is they said, well, we would recommend that he be released to come home and to attend 1 or 2 meetings a week.
This is a true story. I spoke to her that day.
Yeah. And to which I said, oh, okay, well, thank you for letting me know. Let me just inform you that I'm actually in my own recovery program for families where we solely focus on what long-term recovery looks like, successful recovery. And I can tell you that plan is not it.
And that I have needs that allow me the freedom of welcoming him back, and that doesn't work.
Well, right. And so what I said to them is I said, let me tell you what that plan looks
Yeah.
like. He needs to start over. He needs to go back into rehab. And then from that point, go into an outpatient program At which time he should probably go live in sober living because he's not living with me this time. And the lady said to me after I shared that, she said, you know, after you've shared all that information, I actually agree with you.
I have to jump
Pamela,
I know.
that is insane.
No, but guess what? And for what it's worth, listeners out there, this happens all the time. And it's not intentional. We touched on this in the last episode with Stephanie. The system itself will fail you often because they're so inundated and overrun with people who are in such horrible situations, although your husband was too, and I was too. But what they're accustomed to is people coming from home and environments that are not healthy. So it's almost like we're setting the family over here because they're sick or they're part of the problem, and we just need to talk to this person. They're not. What you did, she probably sent her into shock because people don't hear that. Someone at a detox center does not hear from a spouse, oh, thank you for your opinion, but I'm in a program of recovery. I'm understanding what long-term recovery looks like, but also what my needs are to make sure that I feel safe in my own recovery. That appears to people, by the way, husbands out there, children, or even other people in your life, as control. Mm-hmm. And if you have not, here's a little pitch for getting support. If you have not yet surrendered, got yourself help, started your own process of recovery and changed yourself, then it is control because it's a threat. It's like, you got to do this. You got to do this. And instead, oh, I've been in a program for months. I've already done tons of work to heal myself. I've changed. I've calmed my nervous system. I see what love looks like. I'm willing to walk and endure with you. This is what my need is. That's totally different.
Yes.
And that's what she had done. Not only once, but unfortunately twice. So that's the beauty of being able to approach a situation. You might not be speaking to your addicted loved one. You might even be speaking to a professional who's there to help them, but is going to fail you more often than not.
Yes. So,
but guess what? Why did she fail him also? Because her sweet husband has the ability to articulate the way I do and millions of others in their addiction who were telling him or who were telling her what?
Oh, you mean manipulate?
Yeah, manipulation.
I
was just going to say
it's not
master,
no articulate.
Yeah.
It's master manipulate.
Yes.
He's telling her, right? Like, imagine if you're a person that doesn't have someone like her in your life. You might not be as manipulative because you have nothing really to go home and live for like that. So they can tell these people what they need to hear.
Yeah, I know that was what he was hoping for.
Yes,
yeah.
I'm glad we touched on that.
There's no way that I was going to do that. I was so upset. I was so angry that I had to hold up the world again.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Like it was awful. It was, I don't know, life just throws you all these curveballs at once. And not only was he in rehab for the second time, but then I ended up moving. I remodeled a condo that I bought, whether he was coming with me or not. And then I moved while he was in rehab.
Huge leaps of faith.
And I was like, well, you might be able to come with me. I didn't bring any of his stuff with me. I left it at our shop and I said, here, because I needed him to know exactly where I was. I wasn't making threats. Those were boundaries. Those are different. I learned because of what you taught me that they're different. I had been trying to approach this addiction from a logical standpoint because I'm a logical person. Addiction isn't logical.
No.
And they don't listen.
No.
Too many words. Action.
And what you did appears to the world and what they interpret it as is tough love. And it was the furthest thing from it. It appeared tough because it was. These were rigid boundaries, but it was all based upon the amount of sacrifice, time, and effort you had put into yourself to see this differently.
All I wanted him to do was match my efforts. If I'm showing up to group 3 and 4 times a week, plus I'm going to therapy, plus I might be going to some recovery support groups after, like if you can't match my recovery efforts.
Yeah, you don't belong in my life.
And how many can say that? How many can truly say that?
Because I'm leading by example. It doesn't make any sense.
It's not
I know
fair.
it. And it's not fair.
No.
But the reality of it is that he could see me healing, and he knew that if he didn't jump on board, he was going to get left behind. And that's not what he wanted. Ultimately, we are a humankind that craves and has to have connection.
Yeah.
And so because of that, because I was able to position myself from a place of healing, from a place of here's an option if that's what you want, and not pressure, that he had to be able to choose his healing path, his recovery, to walk with me together on that. And he did. And in the very beginning too, he also, and what was great was that because he had been through the outpatient process before, the director of that same program was on the same page as I did. And so Danny, you talk about the guardrails of recovery. So I was one side of that, and that director was the other side of it. And he said the same thing. Like, he and I had a conversation. We weren't meaning to like corral him into something manipulative. What, you want to get healthy? Oh, that's the worst thing ever. No, it wasn't like that. It was, hey, from a place of love, we can see that this is how that this path forward is laid out for you. And because we were on the same path, it made it really easy. And he felt like we were trying to control him. And I said to him, how are we trying to control you? Do you think I get something beneficial out of you going back into treatment?
Yeah.
No, I just get to continue to live life alone.
I just get to hold up the world, our business, like while you're going and getting help.
Yeah.
And so he was like, oh, that makes sense. You know?
Well, and they knew what you had done. This is the other beautiful part. You could have told them, like you did at the lady at Detox, like, hey, this is what I'm done. I'm in a program. This is who I am. Oh, wow. Like, they have a totally different idea of who you are now. But same with the program, they knew, because like you said, these guardrails should exist. So why don't they? Long time ago, years ago, there were guardrails because families were heavily involved. But now it's changed. The environment's changed. The program's doing the best they can. And again, remember I said this earlier, but a lot of times the program is dealing with the majority of people in there whose families are part of the problem, or they're not a positive influence. So they're actually purposely trying to separate the family from the person.
Sure.
So here you are, like making sure they know who you were, because the truth is what you were asking him to do gave you assurance, gave you security, but it was the same thing the program was going to be asking of him. Believe it or not, I'm guilty no longer. But back in the day of using the ability to manipulate, right?
Oh my gosh. Masterful.
When you're in your addiction or recovering from it, you have a master's level skill set. So do you know what a person like her husband or any other, not to point him out, anyone would do? They could be in a program, and this, like the lady in Detox, you know what? I can't. I'm sorry. My wife needs me home. She's waiting for me to get home. I got to get home to help. So they can say the right things that are convincing and then immediately get on the phone call with you as a family and be like, listen, they realize it's not that bad. I haven't been doing it as much. Like, there was very little they found in my body. So they're recommending I just come home, like playing both sides, right? So in this situation, we're like, no, the program's saying one thing and then the spouse saying the other. So it's like, now we've created these guardrails, which was amazing.
Which is love.
That is love.
You know, and so after he went through that process, he went back into treatment, and then he went into that outpatient program, and he did go into sober living. Yeah. And during that time,
not wanting to, or not excited about it. Yeah.
In fact, well, then, like, not to sideline it too much, but his friends in rehab that he made, they were all conjuring up this wonderful idea that they were going to live together on their own in a separate apartment.
Oh, what a great group that would be.
Right. And they were going to keep each other, they were going to keep each other accountable.
Oh, yeah.
And I just said to him, I said, look, if you don't go into actually a legit sober living, I can't support you. Not only will I not financially support you, but I'm not going to hold up the business. I'm not going to move forward with this. You're going to have to stay inside of that program and inside of the sober living. And his program, the IOP, said the same thing.
Yeah. And meanwhile, remembering that what she's asking him to do, she's already doing.
Mm-hmm.
So for sake of time, we have to remember the point we talked about. We got it. I hope all of that really brings clarity to like how she was able to do this and how it was made it so much more effective. But there was, and if you're okay sharing, all of this work that allowed you to understand what long-term recovery looked like, to put in place boundaries instead of threats or requests, it benefited him, right? Because at every barrier point, he had to surrender and accept it. And no one does that on their own accord. There's usually other things that are influencing that. Now, once he did it, he put the work in. He showed up. He worked through all the trauma. He worked through feelings, which is the scariest thing at first. But it was your continued boundaries based upon love that got him to do that each time. So all of this was to help support him. And I think sometimes we lose focus that although that's important, there's a big part of this that we're missing. And it's only one thing that I asked her to share, but recently she shared something. I don't even know if she comprehends to the extent of how profound it was. But all of this not only allowed her to more effectively guide him into recovery and throughout, but it allowed her the chance to really heal from some things. And you shared something. Would you mind sharing?
Yeah,
it?
sure.
Okay.
What I realized was the growth from the person I had become, who I had been, that my husband's addiction made me ugly. I did not show up in great ways. There are many, many times that that I was ashamed for the way that I reacted. And one of the clients in the program had reached out to me and shared, she said that she was struggling with the shame. She said, isn't it ironic that all of a sudden we start to look back on the way that things were, and that we allowed ourselves to be part of that, and then that we didn't show up the best way either, and the shame that came from that. And she said, have you ever experienced this? And I was like, oh yeah. Oh yeah. So this is what I said to her. I said that this is exactly the craziest part. I have had lots of moments of shame, sorrow, and even embarrassment. Shame for the way that I reacted to things that he said and did. The things I said to him that were mean and cruel. For the things that I physically did to him. For the craziness that I demonstrated all around. Then I had sorrow. Sadness for allowing myself to be treated and talked to so poorly by someone that loved me. Sadness that my young adult kids saw me putting up with that kind of behavior. Sadness that I kept attracting these kinds of sick people. Embarrassed that this kind of drama has ruled my life, all my life. Embarrassed that it took this experience to learn how to hold a boundary. Yes, I would say I've experienced all these things. But here's the beautiful part. I didn't realize that I was living from a place of trauma. My nervous system was so completely hijacked, I had no idea that there was another way to live. I just thought that this was normal. The things that helped me were this. 1, getting educated. I understood what addiction was and wasn't because of this program. Then I surrounded myself with others who were successful in recovery, so I knew it was possible. 3, realizing that now, as I look back, that I did the best I could with the knowledge that I had at the time. And 4th, and most importantly, not judging the me of yesterday with the knowledge that I have today. I try to give myself grace, and I am glad that I have learned what healing looks like, and that's why I keep showing up to the addiction recovery groups where healing is encouraged and forgiveness is freely available. We are all just trying to do the best that we can, and God does the rest.
I am so grateful that our audience got a chance to hear your power today, Pamela. You truly are one of the most remarkable, resilient souls I have ever known. And it's so amazing to have been also a witness to where you were before and just the massive transformation that has now allowed you to be such a powerful force in this world that you have always meant to be. You know, you just got derailed for a few minutes, right?
Yes.
And before you share that, some exciting news, right?
Yeah.
Because there's something really cool that really complements Pamela and who she is and the work that she's done. But there's another side I just wanted to share real quick. And thank you for sharing that. I was really hoping that that would touch the hearts of many out there, and I'm confident it will. It's not a phrase, but it's an example I share with everyone. And it's hard because I have to share it over and over and over. This feels really personal. It feels really confusing. It feels like you're part of the problem. It feels like you're lost. But the healthy version of your loved one, restored to who they truly are. Now, that will never be the case when they're in active addiction. And unfortunately, that will never be the case in early recovery. But the person you know and love would never want this to feel personal. They would never want you to feel taken advantage of, manipulated, lied to, betrayed, none of that. But you see, when they are in active addiction, you and anyone else in their life is actually irrelevant. So this change within Pamela not only allowed her to start healing, but it really provided him the opportunity to change. And again, this was in last episode of Stephanie. Also, we were extremely fortunate, not once, but twice, her husband jumping in groups. This is the cool dynamic. Look how cool this is. Here's someone who was almost a year in recovery, relapsed, and is now well into his recovery. He jumps into groups, and this is of other spouses and parents that are trying to make sense of all this. And he's like, yep, here I am. I'm a year in recovery. And he's saying to them the same things that we were saying to her about him. That's the truth of it. Because now he's to a place where he's being restored and he's healing. Oh yeah, don't listen into any of that. Don't take this personal. This is what they have to do. Stop overcomplicating this. And it was so amazing because literally a week ago, 2 weeks ago, I got to hear him speak truth and conviction to a group of family that felt lost as the person in recovery. By the way, he looked so good. He had a better haircut and fade than I do. So he's the only man. But it was so amazing. And I sat there and I held back tears. I actually, after the meeting, cried forever to see his wife, who's changed, who did her own recovery, who sought help, surrendered, and what that influenced him on his other journey and the parallels this took them on. Again, did she ever deserve to be in this situation? No. Did he make choices that led to an addiction, removed his agency, and deeply affected her? Yes.
Yeah.
But the path out of it was the same.
Yeah.
Yep.
My husband now is next week will celebrate 17 months.
So amazing.
So
That's right. I forgot.
Of recovery, not sobriety.
Yep. Big difference.
And I have a quote, one of my most favorite quotes from Viktor Frankl.
Yeah.
He talks about when we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. And that's what I did. And because my husband watched me do that and show up to groups, it raised the bar. Not in a shameful way, but in a way that's what he knew that he wanted to attain. And he was able to do that.
Yep.
And now he's passionate to say the only reason why he is in recovery is because I join this program. And at first he hated it.
Yeah.
And he hated you.
Yeah.
Right?
Another person.
Right. But now, Danny, he's so grateful. He's so grateful. Although his progress has been like a sloth, it has been so slow. And for me, as a chronic overdoer and the recovering enabler that I am, I have to allow him to go at it at the pace that he's going, and trust the process. And throughout we've ran into challenges with therapists that were a lot similar to what the first director had said. Yeah, and oh, you're trying to control. No, I'm not. I'm trying. These are my boundaries. But because I showed up in group, I was able to drive that conviction deeper.
Yep.
And now now I come from a place of education, not because I'm over here drinking the Kool-Aid. It's because I understand the process. Mm-hmm. I've lived it. And I'm living it. And now I can help counsel others that are going along the same path, that are helping. I'm helping them to understand what boundaries can look like for them based on my experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's what it's good to share. But if you're in a place where maybe you're just discovering this about a spouse or a child, a sibling, or maybe you're all the way at the end where you're like, I don't even know if I want to do this anymore. Like, it's amazing how many times people have said, I'm done. That's it. Mm-hmm. But still can't move on. The process in doing this for you is to ensure that even if they didn't choose this, even if they stayed in this or they died from this, did you show up the right way as a true version of yourself? Were you empowered? Did you have a plan? Did you speak the truth? That way you can always know, no matter what, I did. And I approach this from a place of being empowered, supported, with clarity and love.
Yeah, it's not an ultimatum. It's a solution.
Yep.
I've given you an option to choose.
Yeah.
It's a solution, not, oh, hey, go get better and then come back when you're fixed. It's not that.
I'm on the journey. Come join me.
Yeah. I'm willing to walk with you through recovery, but I am not willing to watch you tear down our life and yourself.
Yep.
You can do that on your own.
Well, and the beauty of all this, and that's why I'm excited for you to tell them, is this not only supported, put guardrails in for her loved one to get to this place in his recovery, but it allowed her to escape that dark, horrible place that she was living in herself. And then in addition to this, when we always say, you know what, we start doing the right things and God's the multiplier, is she has single-handedly along the way ministered to, supported, encouraged people in a real authentic way more than I've seen anyone else.
Amen. Amen. And that's why I'm so excited to announce that Pamela is now our first ever Living Proof family recovery coach.
Woohoo!
Yeah.
So you will be seeing a lot more Pamela, hearing a lot more Pamela, getting to learn from her. Would you want to share your social media handle?
Oh, sure.
I'll put it in the show notes too, but just so people can find you.
So what's been so fun throughout this process is that it has really revealed and lit a fire of my passion that I've always had for connecting with people, but more importantly, reconnecting to myself, because that's not really taught. We give and give and give to our families and to our jobs and to everybody else, but not really ourselves. And so over the past year, I have implemented and went to become a certified relationship coach for yourself. And then coupled with the family recovery program, oh my gosh, they just really go hand in hand. And so I have a free tool that people, if they want to know how do you reconnect back to yourself? How do I put my nervous system back in check from being on this roller coaster? I've got some free tools on my website. You can reach me at any of my handles. It's at Coach Pamela Love, or my website, which is coachpamelalove.com.
Awesome. And I'll link that so people can easily find you.
Thank you.
I do want to just say thank you again. I'm so excited to work even more closely with you and to have other people continue to get to know you and the power of your work and your true commitment to recovery and helping people find that in this space. So thank you again.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for being on.
Thank you to both of you for all that you do. I wouldn't be who I am without this program. I wouldn't be this best version of me. And I'm looking forward to the future as well. So
Yeah,
thanks for letting me tag along.
Thanks for being here. Everyone out there listening, you do play an important role, whether it's fair or not. I encourage you to stop waiting for that magical day when this just goes away. Empower yourself, find people, tools, and support. You can reach out to us. But the second that happens, we take power away from the addiction and we start putting conviction in place. That's where more people have a chance to heal. Thanks for joining us.